You've been sharing a lot of things around best practices, things that we should do, what we could do when you're studying these accounts that do really, really well and understanding their content. What are some of the worst things that you see people do? Maybe we get to worst practices.
I would say that most people that I run into are typically batch producing content. They'll plan out content for a week, a month, a quarter. And there is, I don't want to say a myth because at one point in time it did work, but people are really convinced that frequency is the key to scale. I'm not saying frequency never worked, 7, 8, 9 years ago when the platforms there's less competition. And I'm not saying it can't work, but people get caught in this thing that they haven't made anything go viral, or maybe they made one thing go viral, but they don't understand how it goes viral. So they think, hey, I'm just going to just keep producing a ton of content, and then the algorithms, just because I'm producing a ton of content, are going to grow. We focus on, and working with clients, it's really quality over quantity. We want to do the research. We want to identify the performance drivers so that we can get our format dialed in. And once we have our format dialed in, then you can go to frequency and grow. If you're just constantly batch producing content, you never really learn what it takes to be consistent over the long run. And maybe you hit it because you got on Instagram Reels early or TikTok early. But as soon as the algorithm shifts or there's more competition on the platform, then you have no solid foundation to understand, well, what do I need to do next? That, I think, is the biggest mistake that I see. And again, I'm not saying that frequency can't play a role. Like, I know content creators, like a friend of mine, Alex Stemp, just hit 20 million followers on TikTok, and he talks about frequency. And I said, Alex, it works for you because your content is so dialed in. You spent so much time, you spent years dialing this in. That's why it works for you. But for everybody else out there, just to get in the process of just creating content every day, it's not going to lead to the results because they're just playing the lottery. They're hoping for luck. And if they get something to go viral, they don't understand why, so that they can't produce it. And then there's a lot of people that are still stuck on time of day, hashtags, things like that, where again, at a certain point in time when there's less competition on the platform, it could yield results. But what I always say to people is focus on the content. Don't focus on all these other variables, because it's just having the right hashtag, posting the right time of day, posting every day is not going to make a crappy piece of content amazing. You have to be a student of the game. You have to learn how to really contextualize your message for what audiences are looking for and what the algorithms are looking for.
I really like what you're saying there, Brendan, because there's a lot of content that's out there that tries to teach you little tweaks and hacks around hashtags, time of day, or these little things that might get you a short-term gain. But what I'm hearing you saying right now is there are foundational skills that you can build that are evergreen, that are universal, that you can take with you once you understand how to create content that people care about, that touch on the facts, the fun, and feelings. And if you master that, you can write a book, you can make a movie, you can make a commercial, you can do a 3-second piece of content or 30-minute piece of content, and people will care. And I really like that, because now we're moving away from jumping on a trend or something, and we're really looking at building real skill that is translatable. You mentioned something about research, and as a person who deals with research, there's a gap, and it's creative and then execution, I think, something like that, right? Research, creative, and execution. So you're the supplier of really beautiful, insightful research. And if somebody doesn't get the creative part, they can't translate that to something good. Otherwise, we'd all be geniuses making viral videos. So if somebody's stuck in the creative part, do you have any advice or thoughts on how, here's the research, but this is how you connect it?
So one of the things that we do with clients that we find highly effective is in our research, we identify a reference that we want to emulate. Again, not from a content perspective, but from the nuanced storytelling mechanisms. We never tell people to copy content. And also a big distinction I want to say is when we work with somebody, it's not changing who somebody is, not changing their message, changing their values, their brand. We're changing the way it's expressed. So when we do the research, we identify a reference, we identify those performance drivers, and then we have the client create a piece of content based upon that. And then what we do is one side of the screen, we put the reference. On the other side of the screen, we put the piece of content they produced, and we have them play it side by side. And by doing that, you will learn so much about what you're missing in terms of how you're delivering your content. And still, it takes time to get good at this. It's not going to happen overnight. But when you start doing those practices, you have that level of awareness, you're comparing your content with the reference, you understand why the reference works, then you will see a light years of improvement in your content and your process.
When people put their work side by side against the reference, is it self-evident to them, or do you have to point out certain things so that they can understand that?
It depends on the client client, it depends on the performance drivers. I would say it's about 70% they get it, and the other 30% we need to point out to them. What we have just found is the more you do it, the more you catch on to it. And that's really why I wanted to turn our company into a research and insights company. Is I want to be delivering new breakdowns, new research every week, so content creators can look at it from different perspectives. We could look at a clinical psychologist that's going viral on TikTok one week, a lawyer that's going viral on Instagram Reels another week, an insurance company that's using the communication algorithm to diversify. Because I find that the more that you entrench yourself in this, the more you learn, the more that you look at, the more that you study from a creative perspective, then you start picking up those nuances. But it takes time. You need to really immerse yourself deeply in it.